All right, we have now finished the 7-shoe series of five-way series of Martingale, Paroli, 1326, Fibonacci, and flat betting, all versus each other, playing the same hand. 7 shoes, 7 whole shoes of that. Boy, that was a lot of work, but I hope you enjoyed it. I think we got some good information out of it. So let's we're going to do the summary of that here. You know how, if you've been watching, you know how this goes. I bring up my lovely clipboard and with my beautiful hand-drawn charts, or tables, whatever you want to call them. As you can see, it says the 5-way summary, because that's what it is. So we got, then with the headers, we have Martingale, Paroli, flat, 1326, and Fibonacci. I guess I need to get finer markers. These, I'm using like Sharpie, thick Sharpie sized ones. When I have to make these little smaller words, they get kind of running in. The only reason that Martingale and Fibonacci are in red, and then Paroli and 1326 are in green, and flat betting is in blue, is to signify that these are negative progressive betting systems. It doesn't mean that they're bad or they came out in the red, and the green is to indicate that they're positive progressive betting systems. That's all, and the blue just to differentiate the flat from the rest of them. Okay, I've done that before, so if you've watched the summaries, you've seen that. Okay, anyways. First shoe. We got 50 hands out of that one. Out of 6 shoes, we have, playing heads up against the dealer, we have never gotten any fewer than 45 hands. So 50's, I think maybe once we got 51. And all of that depends on, how many hits you need to take, or the dealer needs to take during each hand, how many splits there might be. So I guess for whatever reason, maybe we got a lot of just player only took 2 cards and dealer took 2 cards, and that enabled us to get a little farther. Anyways, Martingale busted out in 6 hands. That's why this 6H is here. That's what the H stands for. So all players buy in for 50 units. They start with a wager of a single unit. Again, if you've been watching the series, you know how that goes. Martingale busting out in 6 hands. This time was not allowed to buy back in. In the Martingale versus flat betting series, I did allow Martingale to buy back in. This time I did not. Busting out in 6 hands, that's the first 6 hands, by the way. So Martingale just left the table. How you want to play Martingale when you bust out is up to you. You're going to buy back in again. You're going to bring more chips out of or money out of your pocket, because on his final bust out bet, Martingale is is betting for less than what he should be if he's following the system. So you got to make that decision. Personally, I think you come to a table, you buy in. When you're playing a system like this, you buy in, and when you run out, you're done, at least for that table. Get up and go take a break. It didn't work this time. Try again next time if you want to stick with Martingale. My opinion. Paroli. Paroli playing where it would press the bet for 3 consecutive wins, and then it would start the cycle over. Came in losing 4.5 units. Flat better closed out the shoe down 1, which really isn't that bad. It does show that having the flat better here, I think, is really important. It's like a benchmark, because he's betting a single unit every time. It lets us know, in a way, how the shoe went. If the flat better is up, then it was a good shoe. If the flat better is down, it's most likely a bad shoe. If the flat better is pretty close to even, and I would basically call that, break even for for the as far as determining if it was a good shoe or a bad shoe, that's pretty much a break-even shoe. The 1326 works on following this betting sequence on win. So if you win the first one, you go to the next level, which is a 3. If you win that, you go to a 2. If you win that, you go to a 6. If you win that, you start your cycle over. Anytime you lose, you go back to the beginning. Let me just quickly mention for those who may not be familiar, Martingale, the idea is that you close your losing streak with a gain of 1 unit. So for the most part, you're doubling your wager on every consecutive loss. So you start with 1, you lose that, you wager 2, you lose that, you wager 4, you lose that, you wager 8, then to 16, then to 32. He didn't get to 32 because while he started with 50 units, you have to add up all of the prior losses. So 1 plus 2 plus 4 is 7, plus 8 is 15, and that's how far down you are. Plus 16 is 31. So you already you only got 19 left after that. So that's how that works. Paroli, like I said, you press up to 3 consecutive. Your entire winning. So if you have multiple wins from splits and double downs, or if you have the bonus pay from Blackjacks, you press the whole thing. Okay, so then Fibonacci also busted out in 8 hands. If you watch this shoe, this was 9 consecutive losing hands in a row, straight out of the gate. So, folks, it does happen. And if you will read about systems that say, well, eight losing hands in a row doesn't happen very often. Maybe not very often, but it does happen. And right out of the beginning of the shoe, it can happen. It happened to us here. The way that Fibonacci works is it's sort of like Martingale, but instead of trying to close out your losing streak at a gain of 1 unit, you're attempting to close out at break even, not counting multiple wins from splits and double downs or bonus pays from Blackjack. There is a sequence. The best thing to do is just to go through the series, and I explain it, I believe, in pretty good detail how it works. Anyways, much to the chagrin of many viewers, Fibonacci busting out there in 8 hands, down 50 units after the first shoe. All right, let's just keep going. Plenty to talk about. Second shoe, second day, 45 hands. Again, that's our minimum expected out of a 6-deck shoe. It has not disappointed yet. Martingale worked his way back. He survived the whole shoe this time. Ended up gaining 23. The second number here, which is going to be in either red or in green. Oh, by the way, and same up here. Red indicates that negatives. Also the minus, but so you can see it more at a glance. Green and the plus means it's that you're making money. Okay, so with the win of 23, Martingale, his running total is 27. Paroli won 17. His running total is plus 12.5 units. So, and this will show us that the shoe with a flat better losing half of a unit. His running total is 1.5, but that's very close to a break-even shoe. Yet they came out making money. 1326 made quite a bit of money, 35 units. On a $5 table, that's $175. His running total after the initial loss of 11 is 24, and Fibonacci made 15.5, cutting his running total or his running loss to a minus 34.5. So, the differences between the shoes is, this was obviously big losing streak. These must have had some kind of losing streaks, but then at some point, but the way that Martingale and Fibonacci work is they get them back. There must also not have been much choppy win-lose action in order for these guys to do this well. Get the flat better to still come out at minus half a unit at fairly flat. I think these are some of the things we're starting to reveal in conducting these tests. Okay. Shoe number 3, 46 hands. As you can see, the minus 50 means Martingale busted out again. I don't recall exactly, but obviously there was a losing streak somewhere, you know, 2/3 of the way into the shoe, because it happened at hand 31. That puts Martingale's running loss at minus 77. Paroli also down by 17, bringing him down into the red by 4.5 units. As we can see from the flat better being down 11.5, this was not a very good shoe. So it was not a very good shoe. There must have been some choppy back and forth action that caused these two systems to suffer more damage. And as the flat better down 11.5, his running total is a negative 13. The 1326 lost almost as much as the Paroli at a negative 16.5 but he's still in the green plus 7.5 units. And Fibonacci also did not do well, losing 36 units. Now, really the only way that that Fibonacci would have a negative number without being completely busted out is that he ended the shoe mid-cycle. And I talk about that in just about every shoe on what you should do when you end the shoe mid-cycle. Do you pick up the first hand of the next shoe where you left off in your sequence? And that could go for any of these. Or do you employ some other form of money management? I put some of my thoughts in the videos. You can watch those and get those ideas from me there. But ultimately, it's your decision. It's your money. Like I always say, I'm not recommending any of these systems to you. We're just analyzing them. You're going to make these decisions yourself. So don't blame me when you lose. But, if you'd like, you can send me a check when you win. Okay. Shoe 4, 48 hands. As you can see again, Martingale had a tough time of it. He busted out in 40 hands. He almost made it. Obviously, he got into a losing streak. Okay, this is the well-published or the most remarked risk about Martingale is that when you get on those losing streaks, eventually you're either going to exhaust your bankroll or you're going to hit the table max. Table max here being 100 units, which nobody ever got to, especially when you're only starting with 50 units. But I make it 100 units because if you're playing 1 unit to 100 units, that's like playing a $5 table with a $500 maximum bet. So, nobody got there. It could be possible that if you got way up early, that you could potentially then get on a losing streak where you might hit the table limit, but most of the time you're going to bust out. So, as you can see, busting out like this, it's a 6 or 7 hand losing streak. I brought Martingale in for 50 units, just like all the other systems, just for parity. But probably Martingale, you want to come to the table with more units. Now, of course, it puts you at greater risk that when you bust out, you will lose. You'll lose more. Say you came with 100 units, so you could potentially double the amount that you could lose. But you buy yourself a lifeline of really though only 2, maybe 3 more hands in the losing streak. Most likely 2. I didn't run the numbers. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. If you in the first shoe, it was a 9 losses in a row. So even coming to the table with another 50 units wouldn't have helped you. It only would have cost you. You still would have busted out probably at the 8th hand. Even if you made it to the 9th hand, you still would have been done. You still would have been all the way out. I really don't remember how much farther the losing streaks went here. But once we get over here, you'll see that whatever it was, Fibonacci was able to survive it because he's not increasing his wager as quickly. Anyway, moving on. There must have been, again, some really bad choppy back and forth action. As you see, Paroli was down 20. Obviously, you can see that the Martingale is now down 127. Paroli down 20, bringing his running loss to 24.5. It was not a good shoe with the flat better being down 8.5, a running total of minus 21.5, and a really tough time for the 1326 at minus 32.5, running total now going into the negatives of minus 25. And you can and this must have been a lot of win lose win lose win lose for this loss rate to be so much higher, because of the way that the 1326 works, that whenever you win, you let your wager ride like Paroli would do, but you also bring out another unit. So this can show, this I think well illustrates the damage that can be done by win lose win lose. Obviously it wasn't a good shoe, but just like it was happening here, win lose took these down at a faster rate than the flat betting. Okay, Fibonacci, however, for fans of Fibonacci, I know there's several of you, managed to eke out a gain of 5 units. So he's cutting his losses a little bit. He's still down 65.5. I know that's a little bit blurry using that fat pen. Okay. And as you can see, Martingale went out in 40 hands. So he almost made it to the end of the shoe. All right. Shoe 5, 47 hands. Martingale not only survived, he did fairly well. Gain of 39, cutting his losses to a negative 88. The Paroli was not able to make a gain, and being down 6.5, running total of minus 31. And it was a decent shoe. Okay? Being up 7.5 brings the flat better down, cuts his losses to minus 14. But that shows us that this was a decent hand. Yet Paroli, something wasn't working here. I don't recall, we'd have to really analyze hand by hand, which I'm not going to go back and do, but something wrong, something not working there, especially when you see the 1326 showing a gain of 21.5, which is, about 3 times what the flat better made. So again, I don't remember how it worked, but again, cutting his losses, running losses for this series to minus 3.5. And Fibonacci pulling off a gain of 14.5, cutting his losses, running losses to minus 51. So decent shoe. As you can see, it was working, but something wasn't working for Paroli. Okay, hand 6. Minus 50 again for the Martingale in 14 hands. Busted out again. Again, this didn't happen straight out of the gate, but it happened early enough. I would assume that was a loss, a loss streak of around six hands, because the gains he may or may not have made by then would not have this early wouldn't have substantially increased his bankroll enough to cover the continued doubling on losses. So Martingale is running at a minus 138. Paroli again down 14, running loss of minus 45. Again, you can see it wasn't a very good shoe, with the flat better being down 9, running loss of minus 23. And it was again a pretty tough shoe for the 1326, running loss of minus 26.5. So again, this must have contained choppy back and forth action. This is more than double. Minus 9 for the flat better, minus 23 for the 1326. That's quite a discrepancy of losses. You can say, well, he made more here, but he lost at about, well, he gained what is that? Gained 14, lost 14. So really, that kind of evened out. I'm talking about the difference between the two. And the Fibonacci being down 11.5, but completing the shoe, running loss of 62.5, minus 62.5. Obviously, again, ending the shoe somewhere mid-cycle in order for this to happen. Okay? Last shoe, 7th shoe. Martingale continued, completed the shoe, ending the shoe mid-cycle for a -18. Again, that's an obvious thing, because he would have either busted out entirely or been up somewhat. Actually, what could have happened in Martingale here is he could have gotten down to being all in for less, and I think it is what happened, less than what he needed to double in for. So let's say, his next wager should have been 32, but he only had 20. And so what we would do is we would go all in, wager the 20, and while that would not cover back all of the losses, the way that Martingale is supposed to work is reset after your win back to a single unit wager. I talked about it in the video of whether or not you should try to press your wager or bet more to try to close out your loss column. We didn't do that, because if you start, let's say you go all in, you only have like 5 units left. You go 5 units in and you win, and you decide that you're going to press that to try to get back. Let's say you're down 40. To try to get all that back. You're not playing a Martingale system anymore. You've switched gears into being a Paroli, where you press your entire, where you press the bet, your original wager and your winnings. So that's why we don't do that. So that could be as well what happened, but I think he also did end mid-cycle. Okay, really tough time for Paroli. Obviously, must have been a lot of back and forth action again. Losing, Martingale down 18, running loss of 156. Paroli losing 37, running loss of -82. Again, it wasn't a very good shoe, with the flat better coming in at -10.5 for a running loss of -33.5. This proves that it wasn't as good of a shoe, but it must not have been as bad. And to see Paroli losing so much more, twice really, of the 1-3-2-6, losing 18.5 for a running total of loss of -45. And also when we're seeing this, I'll have to go back and look at, well, this is really the first time they've done this head-to-head comparison, but between these two, of how it can happen where I would expect the 1-3-2-6 to really lose faster, but I guess once you win the 3, you start flattening out your losses, and that just must be where it is. Because otherwise you would expect, if it's just win-lose, you might expect 1-3-2-6 to decline at a faster rate. But if it's win-win-lose, Paroli's going to start losing faster. So that must be what's going on. Of course, with you start getting into just as rapid of loss or more in 1-3-2-6 if you go win-win-win-lose, because of the number of chips you're continually having to bring out. Okay, and then Fibonacci busted out in 46 hands. So out of 47 hands, he busted out the second to the last hand. With Fibonacci's running loss is -112.5. Okay, now I found this interesting, that Fibonacci busted out while Martingale did not, and I didn't expect that. I expected if there was going to be bad losing streaks, that we would get Martingale busting out because of the doubling nature of the Martingale sequence. But what I think what happened here is that when Martingale wins, he closes, assuming that he's not in for less, he closes his losing streak at break even +1. When Fibonacci wins, the objective is to close at break even. So Martingale will close at break even +1. Fibonacci tries to close at break even, but he doesn't always close on a win, because in the sequence he doesn't go back all the way to the beginning at 1 unit like Martingale does. He only goes back 2 in the position. So if Fibonacci is down in the cycle, far, a few positions down, so that when he loses 2, he's still in the cycle and then starts losing again. So let's say you lose 4 in a row, you win, and you lose 4 in a row, or something like that, you're still in the Fibonacci sequence, and you've moved farther down, and when you move down, your bets get larger. So while Martingale was able to reset on the win, Fibonacci was still in and betting at more than a single unit, so wherever he is down in his in his sequence, and then that ended up catching up to him. I really didn't expect that. So in a way, I'm kind of glad it happened. I think it reveals something. Martingale, yes, large risk of busting out all the way. While it happened to Fibonacci twice, it happened to Martingale 4 times. Yet one of the times that it happened to Fibonacci, this time it happened, they both busted out. But this time when it happened to Fibonacci, Martingale was still alive, and down 18 isn't good, but it's a heck of a lot better than being down minus 50. Okay, so I thought that was really interesting, and worth making a note about. Okay, so anyways, in the end, we got 330 hands out of the 7 shoe series. That's about what we would expect. There's with the amount of penetration, getting 45 hands at least. Obviously, we got more. Times 7. You're going to come in around there. Martingale closes out at down 156 units in 230 hands because he didn't complete all every shoe. Paroli closes out minus 82, of course, in the 330 hands. The flat bettors down 33.5, again in 330 hands. 1326 down 45 in the 330 hands, and Fibonacci down 112.5 in 287 hands, again because he did not complete every shoe. So at a glance here, down 156, down 82, down 33.5, down 45, down 111.5. Nobody, now obviously it was these weren't very good shoes because the flat better was down an average of 5.5 per shoe, but the flat better did better, and while these systems you would hope to make money, the real objective is to do better than the house, or to have some kind of dent on the house edge, and so yeah, or in other words, to lose less than a flat betting, which these did not. I mean, this is almost 5 times the loss here with Martingale, more than twice. Another 40% more. Three times as much of a loss here. So that's a little bit discouraging as far as these betting systems go. So that's where that is. Now, this is a limited subset of playing. They always tell we have to look at things in the larger perspective, not just 7 shoes, but over, and not 330 hands, potentially thousands of hands. Well, this obviously takes time to get through this many using real cards, not doing computer simulations. So our prior summary, when we ran each of these against flat, which there's series on all of those, Martingale had been up by 65 3/4 units after 420 hands. The Paroli was down 27.5 units after 326 hands. The reason those are different is because just like these, some of them had 45 hands, 46 hands, 52 hands. So the sum total, but they're all very close. The reason that Martingale is different is I ran the original Martingale series, not on a 6-deck shoe, but doing single and double deck games. But I still think the results are valid and applicable. So the flat better has a higher number of hands because flat better played against all of these. Flat better was up by 3 coming into this after 1,415 hands. The 1326 also was up 23.5 after 333 hands, and the Fibonacci was up 104.5 after 336 hands. Okay, so now we add these together, or subtract, whatever it is. Sum these up. We're looking at, after these two different summaries, Martingale is now down 90 and a quarter. The Paroli is down 109 and a half. The flatbedder is down 30 and a half. The 1326 is down 21 and a half, and the Fibonacci is down 8. Okay, now you're going to go look at these and go, well, oh, that's great. Like, Fibonacci is doing better than the flatbedder. Flatbedder being down 30 and a half, Fibonacci being down 8. But you have to remember, the flatbedder played almost 3 times as many hands. It is the total numbers of hands, 600. We're at, and now things have really more or less evened out, because Martingale busted out and didn't get to buy back in. He's played 650 hands. Paroli 656 hands. The flatbedder has now played 1,745 hands. The 1326 has played 663 hands, and the Fibonacci, not completing a couple of the shoes, these two, is 623. They're all pretty close at this point. But let's look at the what we need to do is we need to see the loss, the average loss per hand. So what we do is we take the sum total, the running total, whether it be gains or losses, divide it by the number of hands. So a minus 90 and a quarter divided by 650 is a negative 0.139 units per hand. That's what you would expect to lose out of our 650 hands. So this is not, over millions of hands, but for now, this could change, because obviously he used to be in the positives. So a minus 0.139 units per hand. On a $5 table, oh God, I didn't do the math already, but you could, 20% would be $1. Was that like 65 cents? Somewhere around there per hand that you would expect to lose on a $5 table. So you make sure you get enough drinks from the drink girl to help make up for that. Paroli would averages out losing 0.167 units per hand, so slightly higher rate. The flatbedder is losing 0.017 units per hand. It's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty close to flat. The 1326 losing 0.032 units per hand after 663 hands, and the Fibonacci losing 0.013 units per hand after 623 hands. Now, so you might think, okay, 0.013 is better than 0.017, and obviously better than anything else. But the flatbedder has played more hands. Let's look at, if he's a little closer to these, you can kind of see, well, this is this is about double. Actually, this would be 10 times the losing rate, yet only 27 more hands, 40 more hands. Now he could go out of 40 hands, he could lose another 50. Will it make that much difference? Yeah, it would change this a little bit, but not too drastically. So as it stands right now, Fibonacci is the only one that's doing better than flat betting. All the other ones are faring worse. But at the same time, you get some good shoes. Where are they? Plus 39, that's pretty big. And these were bad shoes. All these losses here in the blacks. Plus 35, plus 23. You get plus 14 and a half. Those aren't bad. You start getting some good get some good shoes, which is why we need to keep doing this. Now we're going to move on from Martingale, Paroli, 1326, and Fibonacci. We're going to keep playing other systems against the flat betting. It's going to get a little bit more tricky in a way, but I'll work this out. But one more thing I wanted to add, I think this is important. So we are looking at an average loss for flat betting at playing perfect basic strategy, and I don't really think I've screwed up. Maybe I've messed up one or two hands. In fact, I know I did. Thank you, Jason Schneiderman, for calling out hitting additional hits, throwing additional cards out on split aces. It didn't change the outcome of that hand. It perhaps screwed up the natural order of the shoe after that, but I think it's okay. What's important here is playing perfect basic strategy. Your expected loss is 0.52%. Okay, so that meaning for that, every dollar that you wager, you expect to lose 0.52% of that. So, if 1% of a dollar is a penny, this is about half a cent per dollar. So, every dollar you put out, you're going to lose a half a cent. Well, out of every unit, we should really look at it that way. Out of every unit, you're going to lose 0.52% of that. Out of betting a single unit on 1,745 hands, you would expect to be down by 9.074 units. Well, if you look here, we have, out of 1,745 hands, the flat better is down 30.5 units. So what is that going to tell us? It tells us that we are losing at more than 3 times 0.52%. So we're actually losing at around 1.5%. Now, does that just mean we've got bad cards? Could be, because that's 1,745 is still not not enough to be definitive. Or I would guess that this calculation is not wrong. But if this calculation is based on millions of hands run through simulation or just simple math, we're trying as best we can to be real. So we're actually, basic strategy is sort of failing us in a way. Just thought that was interesting. I wanted to figure out what our loss rate was. I think I did the math right. If you want to run the numbers yourself, if you catch me making an error, let me know in the comments, and we'll discuss, and we'll try to remedy it and make it right. But I'm pretty sure I got it right. Do your due diligence if you have any questions about it. Anyways, hope you're liking this so far. I guess if you took 600, Fibonacci's kind of winning, but if you almost tripled, you would still be in the mid-20s for losses. So perhaps Fibonacci is doing okay. Everybody else is falling behind a little bit. We're going to leave it like that for now. So anyways, thanks for watching. Bye.